In 1923, a German banker named Friedrich Hecker stood at the counter of a Berlin cafe, clutching a thick stack of banknotes that represented 30 years of careful saving. Government bonds. A pension. A respectable savings account at one of the city's most trusted institutions. Every mark he'd earned, every mark he'd invested, all of it denominated in the official currency of the Weimar Republic. He wanted nothing more than a simple cup of coffee. The waiter looked at the pile of paper, shook his head, and said the price had gone up again since breakfast. What Friedrich held in his hands was now worth less than the coffee itself. 40 miles outside the city, a wheat farmer with dirt under his fingernails and no formal education was living through the exact same crisis and getting richer by the hour. His grain bins were full. His livestock was healthy. Every single day the price of his wheat climbed higher, not in marks, but in real value. People from Berlin were showing up at his gate carrying grand pianos, fur coats, family silver, even wedding rings, begging to trade anything they owned for a single bag of flour. Same country. Same year. Same nightmare of hyperinflation. Two completely opposite outcomes. The only difference? What they held. This isn't ancient history. This isn't some dusty economics lecture. This is what happens when money dies. And if you think it can happen today, let me show you something that should make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Every single fiat currency ever created in the history of civilization has either collapsed entirely or lost the vast majority of its purchasing power. Every single one. The US dollar, the world's reserve currency, has lost more than 96% of its purchasing power since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's arithmetic. We are not outside this pattern. We are living inside it right now. But here's what almost nobody talks about. While paper wealth evaporates, certain assets don't just survive, they thrive. They absorb the real value that pours out of collapsing currencies. They have done so for 4,000 years, across empires, revolutions, and hyperinflations. The names change. The nature never does. Today I'm going to walk you through the 6 categories of assets that have protected ordinary people, and sometimes made them wealthy, when everything else burned. Not theory. Not gold-bug slogans. Real, documented outcomes from Weimar Germany to Zimbabwe, from Argentina to Venezuela, from post-Soviet Russia to 1946 Hungary. I'm going to tell you the stories, show you the mechanics, and explain why these 6 things keep working when governments, central banks, and safe investments fail. And at the end I'll ask you a simple question. Which of these 6 do you actually hold right now? Because when the next crisis hits, and history says there will be a next one, it won't matter what you believed. It will only matter what you held. Let's start at the beginning. The first asset that survives every single time is the oldest one on Earth, productive land. Not some speculative plot on the edge of a city waiting for a developer. I'm talking about land that grows food, holds minerals, sits on water, or raises livestock. Real, working land. In Weimar Germany, farmers who owned their fields outright became the new aristocracy almost overnight. While bankers in Berlin were burning their worthless marks to stay warm, those farmers could demand payment in gold, in foreign currency, or in goods. One pig farmer traded a single hog for a grand piano that had once cost a banker 3 months' salary. Historical records confirm it. The piano was delivered on a cart pulled by the banker's own horse because the banker could no longer afford to feed the animal. Why does productive land win? Because the economy doesn't stop when money dies. People still eat. They still need fuel. They still need raw materials. Whoever controls the source of those necessities holds real power. A bushel of wheat feeds a family whether the local currency is worth 100 cents or half a cent. That independence from the monetary system is what makes land the ultimate crisis-proof asset. Jump forward to Zimbabwe in 2008. Inflation hit 89.7 sextillion%. The government was printing trillion-dollar notes that people used as wallpaper. Urban workers with savings accounts denominated in Zimbabwean dollars lost everything. But farmers with productive land and livestock suddenly found themselves in the driver's seat. People traded cars, jewelry, even houses for a few goats, or a sack of maize. The pattern repeated exactly. Land works because it produces things humans cannot live without. It cannot be printed. It cannot be inflated away. And in a crisis, its value isn't measured in the collapsing currency, it's measured in survival. The second asset is gold. And before you roll your eyes and think, gold bug conspiracy, stay with me. This isn't mysticism. It's math, human behavior, and 4,000 years of recorded history. When a currency fails, society doesn't wait for a new one to be invented. People need something to use as money immediately. And for thousands of years, humans have defaulted to the same thing, gold. Not because it's shiny magic. Because it's recognizable, divisible, portable, scarce, and, most importantly, no government can print more of it. During the French Revolution, the government issued paper money called assignats, supposedly backed by confiscated church lands. People trusted them at first. Then the printing presses started running. Within 5 years, the assignats had lost more than 99% of their value. People who had converted their paper into gold early kept their wealth intact. People who waited lost everything. The same story played out in Argentina in the 1980s, Russia in the 1990s, Venezuela in the 2010s. Gold didn't soar because of some mystical force. It performed because when official money breaks, humans revert to the oldest monetary technology that still works. Whoever holds it becomes the person everyone else needs to deal with. Notice something important: gold doesn't usually make you rich during stable times. That's not its job. Its job is to keep you solvent when everyone else around you is broke. That is a very different function. And it's why central banks, the very institutions that print the paper, are holding more gold today than at any point in the last 30 years. They know something. Maybe we should watch what they do instead of listening to what they say. The third asset is less obvious but incredibly powerful: businesses with real pricing power. Not every business survives a currency crisis. Most don't. But a specific type not only survives, it gets stronger. These are companies that sell things people cannot stop buying, and that can raise prices as fast as the currency falls. Think about it. If you own a luxury handbag factory and hyperinflation hits, your customers disappear. But if you produce cooking oil, electricity, medicine, or fuel, demand doesn't drop. It can't drop. And if you control that production, you can reprice daily, weekly, even hourly to match the inflation. In Brazil during the chronic inflation of the 1980s, thousands of percent per year, supermarket chains were repricing their shelves multiple times a day. Companies that produced essential goods maintained their real margins. Companies locked into long-term fixed-price contracts got destroyed. The principle is the same everywhere. The businesses that survive are the ones that can pass rising costs straight through to consumers because consumers have no alternative. That's not greed. That's the structural reality of who keeps their purchasing power and who doesn't. In Argentina, Turkey, Zimbabwe, everywhere the pattern repeats. The essential goods producers come through the other side owning a larger share of the real economy, while everyone else is left holding worthless paper. The fourth asset is foreign currency. Specifically, holding claims denominated in someone else's stable money while your own currency collapses. This is the one that quietly separates the wealthy from the middle class in almost every modern currency crisis. The wealthy move money offshore or into dollar-denominated assets before the collapse accelerates. The middle class, who keep everything in local banks, local bonds, local pensions, watch it evaporate. During the Latin American debt crisis of the 1980s, the pattern was textbook. Wealthy families in Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina had dollar accounts in Miami, real estate in New York, holdings in Swiss francs. When the local currencies imploded, their wealth was untouched. Meanwhile, a schoolteacher in Buenos Aires who had saved diligently for 30 years in peso accounts lost essentially everything. The mechanism is brutally simple. If your wealth is denominated in the currency that's failing, your wealth fails with it. If it's denominated in something else, you watch the crisis from the outside. That's why, In every country that experiences monetary instability, demand for US dollars, Swiss francs, or any perceived stable currency explodes. People aren't making an investment thesis. They're running for the exit. And the ones who get there first keep the most. It's also why governments almost always impose capital controls, restricting how much money you can move abroad, right as the crisis accelerates. When the exits start locking, you know people are already trying to leave. The fifth asset is real estate, but not the way most people think about it today. In a currency crisis, real estate doesn't protect you because the number on a screen goes up. It protects you because a building is a physical thing that people need, and its replacement cost rises right along with everything else. You cannot print an apartment building. You cannot inflate away the concrete, the steel, the labor, the land it sits on. In Weimar Germany, apartment owners in Berlin watched the nominal price of their buildings skyrocket into the billions of marks. Those numbers were meaningless. But when the crisis finally ended and a new currency was introduced, the buildings were still standing. They still collected rent. They still had real purchasing power. The people who had held marks in bank accounts came out with nothing. The people who had held the buildings came out whole. The same thing happened in post-Soviet Russia in the early 1990s. As the ruble disintegrated, ordinary Russians who had received apartments for free during privatization suddenly discovered that those apartments were now their most valuable possession. Everything denominated in rubles was gone. The walls and the roof remained. Real estate works for the same reason productive land works. It exists outside the currency system. It's a physical object with utility that doesn't depend on what any government decides money is. You can change the currency. You cannot change the fact that people need shelter. And then there's the sixth asset, the one almost nobody discusses, yet it might be the most powerful of all: essential skills. In every major currency crisis there is a class of people who come through relatively unscathed not because of what they own, but because of what they can do. Doctors, electricians, mechanics, engineers, plumbers. Anyone whose skill is essential and whose payment can be negotiated in real time. In Hungary in 1946, the most extreme hyperinflation ever recorded, where prices doubled every 15 hours, factory workers demanded daily wage adjustments. Government employees on fixed salaries were wiped out. But a skilled plumber who could set his own price for each job ate well. He fixed pipes, he got paid in whatever still had value that day: food, fuel, gold, foreign cash. This isn't a soft motivational speech about investing in yourself. It's a hard economic reality. When currency breaks down, the economy reverts to something closer to barter. And in a barter economy, the person who can fix your pipes, treat your illness, or repair your car has more negotiating power than someone holding a government bond worth less than the paper it's printed on. Skills are the only crisis-proof asset that requires zero capital to acquire. They cannot be confiscated. They cannot be inflated away. They cannot be taxed into nothing. And yet they're the one almost everyone overlooks when they think about protecting their future. So let's put the six together, exactly as the historical record shows them. 1. Productive land, the source of things humans cannot live without. 2. Gold, the default money humans revert to when official money breaks. 3. Businesses with pricing power, essential goods producers who can raise prices in real time. 4. Foreign currency, claims denominated in someone else's stable money. 5. Real estate, physical structures with utility that cannot be printed. 6. Essential skills, the portable, unconfiscatable ability to create value in real time. These 6 categories have absorbed the wealth that flows out of collapsing currencies in every major crisis, from ancient Rome debasing its silver coins, to revolutionary France, to Weimar Germany, to modern Venezuela. And in every single case, the people who got destroyed were the ones holding what financial advisors still call safe assets: savings accounts, government bonds, pensions, fixed income instruments. The assets that are safe right up until they aren't. The uncomfortable truth is that monetary stability is not the default state of civilization. It is the exception. Most currencies in human history have eventually failed, or been dramatically devalued. The dollar's slow erosion of 96% since 1913 is simply the early stage of the same pattern that has preceded every crisis in the record. None of this is a prediction about tomorrow. Nobody knows the exact timing or whether the next crisis will be sudden or gradual. But the pattern of what survives and what doesn't is 4,000 years old, and it has never been wrong. The question isn't whether you believe a crisis is coming. The question is whether the things you hold right now are the things that have historically made it through to the other side. Because when the next one hits, it won't matter what you knew. It will only matter what you held. If this changed the way you think about what you own, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me honestly, which of these 6 assets do you actually hold right now? Even one? None? I read every comment. I break down these historical patterns every single week. Real stories, real mechanics, no hype. If you want to stay ahead of the curve instead of reacting when it's too late, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We're living through one of the longest stretches of apparent monetary stability in modern history. But history tells us these stretches never last forever. The wise prepare while the crowd still believes the good times are permanent. I'll see you in the next one. Stay grounded, stay real, and remember, when money dies, only the things that produce real value survive. And that's not just a dramatic line, it's a principle that has repeated itself throughout history, over and over again. Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to face: money, as we know it, is fragile. Not the paper in your wallet, not the numbers in your bank app, but the belief behind it. The trust. The agreement that this piece of paper, or this digital entry, actually means something. The moment that belief cracks, everything changes. Think about it. Money has no intrinsic value. You can't eat it. You can't build a house with it. You can't survive on it alone. It's a tool, a middleman that makes trade easier. But the real value has always been in things that exist outside of money. Food, water, skills, energy, knowledge, community. When systems are stable, money works beautifully. It lets you exchange your time for resources, your skills for comfort, your ideas for growth. But when systems break, money stops being the center, and reality takes over. That's when you see who actually understands value. In a crisis, the person who knows how to grow food is more valuable than the one with $1 million in the bank. The person who can fix things, build things, solve problems, that's real wealth. The one who can think clearly, adapt fast, and stay calm under pressure, that's power. Because real value isn't printed. It's produced. And this is where most people get it wrong. They spend their entire lives chasing money instead of building value. They optimize for salary, not skill. For status, not substance. For appearance, not capability. Works, until it doesn't. Until inflation eats away at purchasing power. Until jobs become unstable. Until systems shift faster than people can adapt. Then suddenly, all the things that looked valuable start to fade. And the things that were ignored start to matter. This doesn't mean money is useless. Far from it. Money is one of